Welcome back, folks. MTG Joe here, and today we're going to be doing something we did similar to last week. This is a meta breakdown. I'm going to try to do these on a weekly basis, just really highlighting the changes in the standard meta, new cards, especially with it being a recent rotation new set. So last week we had Innistrad Midnight Haunt come out, so a lot of new cards injecting. We had the rotation of some very powerful sets like Eldraine and Ikoria. So we're going to take a look both standard meta for best of 1 and best of 3, and we're using Untapped GG as our curation of stats. So this is a companion tool that goes along with Arena, tracks a bunch of gameplays, and this allows us to have a really big sample to see win rates, matches, stuff of that nature. It's still only about a week and a half into the format, so things are likely to still settle. We haven't had a big tournament to really dictate deck lists. We have had some weekly or standard challenge, so we have some 7-0 lists, but still that's a pretty narrow sample size. You only get one loss, so variance does play a key. So jumping into it, we have standard best of 1. This is from the release weekend till now, which is Sunday, September 26th, so 10 days worth of data. And this is from Platinum to Mythic rank players playing matches, and we have a sample size of 530,000 matches. So much better than your friend's cousin telling you about the 3 games they played and how the shuffler was rigged. But looking at the meta, what we see is Mono Green currently has one of the highest win rates. There's a few variations to this deck in best of 1. This one here is on the Ren and 7 Chariot, so 4 of Ren. I've personally found the Ren in best of 1 to be a bit slow. The meta tends to be hyper aggressive, so having your 5-drop have to come down when Mono White can kill you on turn 4 sometimes. It doesn't play too well. I've actually personally liked dropping the Ren, playing 4 Inscription of Abundance to have 8 removal spells, 8 fight spells in the main board, and then play 2 Toskis as well, just as card advantage. So I played a couple different variations, but that was kind of my preferred. The core of the deck is pretty much similar. The other new card we're seeing in some numbers, 2 to 4 usually, is Briarbridge Tracker. It's a 3 mana, 4/3 vigilance when it comes down because it makes a clue token. Notably with the clues, you can copy them with Eska's Chariot. So it's an alternative kind of draw engine for this deck. Jumping next, we see Mono White aggro. This was a deck that a lot of people have had success with as well. Notably, this one doesn't really have anything new. There are some versions that are playing the Intrepid Adversary. This one's opting to go with the Sparring Regimen package. The Intrepid Adversary is the 2 mana mythic that you could pump to anthem your team. The one thing that most decks are doing is playing the 3 Redain main. There's a lot of big mana decks. Generally the meta is kind of either your control or your more of an aggressive slanted deck. The Redain slows down a lot of these kind of big mana decks or control decks. There's also a version going around that's just like a ton of 1-drops, and the new Flashback put a counter on it, so just kind of go wild. So there's a couple different variations of white. I can show you the version after the one I'm playing. We have Selesnya Humans. This is a new deck. I've yet to play with this one, so I can't really comment firsthand, but this one's just jammed with new cards. You have Chaplain of Arms that gives your squad ward when it gets flashed back. You have Ambitious Farmhand, which kind of searches your deck 4 planes and then can transform into a 3/3 with Coven. The Intrepid Adversary that I mentioned that anthem your team. You also have Catilda Dawnheart Prime. This one is all your humans get to ramp as well as put counters on things. You have Adeline, which is kind of a Goblin Rabble Master style effect. Brutal Cathar that lets you exile things. You have Augur of Autumn, which is card advantage. Sigarda, which is card advantage. You join the dance. So this one, if you're just like new and you just bought a bunch of packs from Midnight Hunt, this is a deck to maybe consider. The one thing I'd probably like to see in the mana base if possible, I would probably play some creature lands. Also 22 lands seems a little light with you having 4 drops and a 5-drop. Like I know these kind of technically make mana, but you still are pretty high on the curve. 22 lands seems a little light. So we still see Angels. This is the other version of Mono White with the Intrepid Adversary. So this is more in line with what I was playing with the Legion Angels. I wasn't on Kabira Takedown. Some versions are playing Kabira Takedown. Here's another version of Stompy. Mono Black Control is another one that you'll see some numbers of. So it's similar to the Blood on the Snow style decks. You're topping out in Lolth, Onyx. You have kind of the Treasure Learn package. This version's opting to play Crippling Fear along with Blood on the Snow, and then just a bunch of removal to kind of top things off. Mono green again. Simic Ramp is largely kind of fallen off. The Cyclone Summer's not the best right now, and a lot of the big mana ramps are opting to go with Harvest, the Festivals deck. We have Orzhov Control, Rakdos Control, Selesnya, Gory Control. This is one you'll actually see some numbers of. Just a Meathook Massacre deck, similar Blood on the Snow package with the Prosperous Innkeeper. Werewolves, we're seeing some numbers. I found personally in best of 3, I was playing with the Wet Gruul deck, which we'll take a look at. That one there doesn't go as all in on Werewolf synergy, but tends to be a little bit more resilient. Quickly Scanning, Bant Party. So this is actually a deck you want to keep an eye out, the Galvanic Turns deck. This one just in the standard challenge just absolutely rocked me. So it's kind of the Dragon Shell in Izzet, but without any dragons. It's a creatureless deck. And really what you're trying to do with the deck is with Galvanic Iteration, you want to copy Alrund's Epiphany multiple times. So they're just trying to stay alive to the late game. And what they're doing is they have stuff like Fading Hope to tempo you out, a bunch of counter spells, Cathartic Pyre, they have Cinderclasm as well. So some will play Battle of Frost and Fire, some will play Burn Down the House as ways to kind of combo kill you that way. So they either win with taking like 4 or 5 turns in a row, or they have Hall of the Storm Giants. So something to be mindful of. This is a deck that's probably going to be coming up in popularity. And I think like you can take a look at Untapped. There's a lot of kind of decks here. The Rakdos Vampires list is one you might see in some numbers. I found it a little weak. It's a little odd in the meta, but I've heard some people have had success with these types of shells. Pretty much just playing kind of a treasure package with Immerstorm, which is very powerful, and Goldspan paired together with some removal. And just quickly scanning, we're just getting into some of the older decks of the format. This is kind of what I was saying with the Harvest the Festival style decks, or Storm the Festival. You're just using with like Ren, you have kind of the ramp package, you gain some life. You have your Izzet Dragon Shells. So now we're getting to like 50-ish% win rates, which aren't the highest. If you want to see quickly just what the top decks in Mythic are right now, I think hopefully that doesn't go. You can put your filter on. So that's kind of a pretty big range. With Mythic, you only have 100,000 games, and you're seeing Mono White being one of the prevalent decks right now. Sun Gold Sentinel is a card that's seeing play. Just exiling cards from graveyards and getting pseudo protection with the Coven ability. You're seeing Mono Green Control. I'm actually kind of surprised to see Azorius Control putting up these types of numbers. It's a slower deck, I guess. Just with a Devious Cover Loop, this is your primary win condition with a couple of Hall of the Storm Giants. Golgari Control, just kind of showing up here. Izzet Mill? So some of the, okay, this is the Izzet Turns deck. So this is the other version. We're saying with Burn Down the House. It's just misclassified. But this deck here is just another one that I actually like this better than Hall of the Storm Giants, because when you do need to be aggressive, this is a win condition on its own. Even if you're able to copy it like twice, just getting 6 hasty 1/1s that when they die, this is I've lost some games to this kind of interaction on its own. Bant Party, nothing new. Yeah, so usually about another week or so we should dilute out some of the past meta information. So we'll jump to best of 3. And in best of 3, we did a similar filter for the same time frame. We're getting 76,000 games versus 530. So best of 1 still is a lot more popular just during time and duration. So what we're seeing here is the Mono Green Stompy list. There's a couple different variations. Rumty and Rint are 2 streamers and content creators that are savants, if you may, with the green base decks. So the above one is Rint's list, and I believe the bottom one is Rumty's primary game plan. They are leveraging, I played this one, I did this one in the challenge. For one run, you're using your Briar Pack, you're using kind of your ramp with Gnarled Professor as your learn package. You have a couple of learning spells in terms of Containment Breach, Mascot, and Introduction, so just kind of removal main. Then you got some more fights and kind of the grindier elements for late game. Mono Green seems to be quite popular. We do see Gruul Werewolves coming up as the next deck. Again, I don't think this configuration is the best. Seeing some Jund Dragons, Selesnya mid-range. So this is the other Storm the Festival deck. So what you're seeing is some of these decks opting for Scoot Swarm, others aren't. The Scoot Swarm deck can go wider, but it kind of puts you at a liability versus all the Meat Hook Massacres. So something to keep in mind there. It makes you better against the creature decks. Then you'll see like a bunch of Izzet decks. Most of the Izzet Dragon lists, if you are interested in dragons, are just going Goldspan and Smoldering Egg. And then they do have some copies of Galvanic Iteration. So similar idea. One blue card you're seeing a lot in sideboards is Malevolent Hermit, just a good beater that can also be used as a mana leak style effect on non-creature spells. So this is the Scoot Swarm version like I mentioned. This is more in line with the version I was playing for Gruul aggro. So they kind of call it Wet Gruul. So I started off with this version. I've made some tweaks to my own personal preference, but you're using the core of Jespera and Megda, and then you're ramping up into like Goldspans, Chariots. The interaction I've really been enjoying, like Reckless Stormseeker is my favorite card from the set, I think, and just giving haste. So you play Stormseeker on 3, you go Chariot on 4, you can immediately crew the Chariot and give it haste to get a copy of a token. So for 4 mana, you can get a 4/4 vehicle plus 3 2/2 tokens, which is really sweet. This is another deck you're probably going to see some numbers of. Earlrich, the MPL player, kind of popularized this version of mono black control. So you're basically playing like a Sedgemoor Witch style deck with like the tokens, the pests, Blood on the Snow to get back your big things, and then Valky can be cast off your treasures. There's no red mana, but the treasures can cast it. And then you kind of have just your Wishboard and some Meat Hooks in the side. Just some other variations. Like I've personally, I switched. I had the Adversaries in the main. I didn't really like them. I'm going to be going to Briar Pack in my version. Still the Boros deck that Croaky's popularized. Haven't played any of these Jund Dragon lists yet. Rakdos, Vampires, we saw that very similar in Standard. The Blood on the Snow Orzhov control decks. Simic Festival, so just seeing another Simic version, notably Grafted Identity in this one here. So this is, I believe, another Croaky's list. But with Grafted Identity, if you get it off Storm the Festival, because you're not casting it, it's just into play, you just get to steal something from your opponent, which is kind of sweet. Just taking a look. Yeah, then you just kind of get into some Delver lists. The Delver lists are pretty bad. I played one, and it just felt really underpowered. If we look at best of 3, we only have a sample size of 28,000 games for Mythic only, and you're just seeing mono green being prevalent. You have some copies of mono black control, the Selesnya deck. So it's largely the same, kind of pumping up there. The deck that I think that just to be on your radar is this Izzet control list. It seems very powerful, and like you'll see in my Gruul video when we play, game 1 I thought I had a chance, game 2 they just absolutely eviscerated me. So just something to keep in mind. This is a best of 1 list, but you kind of get the idea. Really what you're trying to do is just control the game. Memory Deluge is really good at finding you key pieces as well as Expressive Iteration, and you're just setting up with Galvanic Iteration, take a bunch of turns and smack them with Hall of the Storm Giants. So if we jump into the most popular cards thus far from the new set, Renin 7 continues to stand out. This is for best of 1. We can flip it to best of 3 as well. Intrepid Adversary, Field of Ruin, dealing with all the creature lands, Deluge, Grasp. So you're seeing kind of control cards, and then the more aggressive cards. You have Reckless Stormseeker, Brutal Cathar, Meat Hook. Arlen this week I've been pretty unimpressed with. Coming down on 4, pretty much it always immediately died. So it was a 4 mana, make 2/2/2s. Just kind of a worse Chariot. So something I was considering cutting down some numbers on. I just wasn't too pleased with it. But we're really seeing kind of your control cards, your mono green cards, your Storm the Festival, and then your like either white-based aggro or Gruul-based aggro decks. And then your lands. So those are kind of the cards we're seeing. We'll flip quickly to best of 3. And then we're seeing more of the same. You have your Wrens, kind of your Malavant, so now you're getting some sideboard cards in here as well, but pretty much the same core cards. So these are probably your safe crafts for this time, if you are interested in playing that. So if we pop over to my profile really quick, I'm hovering around 500 Mythic right now. The decks I've been playing, So Wet Gruel, I'll flip to the other list because this is the older one. I played one in a challenge that was slightly updated. I've been playing Phoenix in Historic. It's been pretty good. I think I finished at 487, 497. So I'm kind of hanging out at that point right now. This is what's really nice about Untapped. You kind of get to see everything, what cards you have, what you can craft. It's free to use. The link's in the bio. Dimir Control's been good in best of one. Mono White, I kind of fell off. I was like 6-1. Seeing if anything else stands out. Just trying a couple different decks. But for the most part, those seem to be the ones that are working. And if we go to event, went 2-1 in that, and then went 4-1 with the Gruel list. So this is my Gruel list. Notably, so I'm on 2 Wrens, 2 Arlens, those 2 Primal Adversaries, and then I was playing some more Burn with Play with Fire and Dragon's Fire main. What I would probably change in mine is drop these Primal Adversaries, drop 1 Arlen, go 3 Briar Packs main. And then the sideboard, I like Toski. Rolling Vortex probably could come out and just play Tangle Trap to deal with the flyers. It's probably not fast enough for the Jeskai or the Is It Turns deck, but if you are seeing some more just general, because the thing is it gets hit by Vanishing Burst, gets hit by Portable Hole, so there are some answers now into the format where it wasn't as kind of be all end all. But that's the deck I've been liking. So I was 6-1 on ladder and then 4-1. So 10-2 over a bunch of competitive games and best of 3. So pretty good like showing for a dozen or so games. But yeah, that's pretty much it. What I've enjoyed, what I've liked, kind of where the meta is at this week. Let me know what decks have been working for you. If there's anything I kind of missed, any standout decks, any standout cards. And then we'll get to some more gameplays. So if you want to see a bunch of these decks, pretty much all of these have been played on my channel to some extent, as well as some other ones, so you can always take a look there. As always, appreciate the support, and if you can, drop a like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.